Jujutsu Kaisen The Culling Game Part 1 or Jujutsu Kaisen Season 3 Part 1. Yeah, gonna be talking about this one today because it just wrapped up today and I think I'm also gonna keep this one a little brief, a little bit short this time around because I don't think there's a whole lot to really say about Jujutsu Kaisen that hasn't been said already. Ever since its debut back in the year, the lore, the year that people want to forget, which was 2020, this show has been on an uphill rise to fame, stardom, and popularity. And with season two, which came out back in 2023, this to me was, in my personal opinion, not only one of the best animes come out of that year, but simultaneously it highlighted like the best that modern shonen anime could go for at the time. And a lot of the scenes, a lot of the most iconic moments that happened throughout this second season still rings true even to this day. That there are a lot of moments in that second season that I can just recall and look back upon so fondly. So, with the inevitable third season of this show, or in this case, a part one of this, I knew going to this I had to like really try my best to hold my reservations back because I know when we get into an eventual part two of the Culling game coming out, this one could potentially blow the first part of the show away. But I gotta say, 12 episodes of the show, if this is the first half of the Culling game, I can't even imagine what the second half is going to be like because right now, from just this first half of the calling game alone, this is arguably like continuing the momentum that Jujutsu Kaisen is known for as of late, with some really stellar, amazing animation by Mappa Studios as always, really good music, and a really nice theme song to boot what the calling game is all about. And while yes, there is the infamous episode, I believe the third episode, where it was just a nuts to butts exposition episode where you had to really look through the fine line of details and had to do the one thing that every human being hates to do, which is reading. The calling game part one is still like a really nice and has some really cool fight sequences and really nice characters and what have you that you come across throughout these 12 episodes. And again, it just keeps momentum going and going and going till the very end. And like I said, I mean, I think to really sum up this first half of the show in a nutshell, this is saying the groundwork of the Culling game. And I know that the second half is going to be where a lot of things are going to be popping out and it's gonna be ballistic. And the premise of this, like when you narrow it down to like the basic fundamentals, and at least my interpretation of this is simply this. The group now has to, after events that happened throughout season two, they now have to go through saving Sojo Gotaro from being stuck in the cube, and also stop the Culling game once and for all, since um, this was created by Kenjaku, the main villain that was responsible for trapping Gojo in the cube in the first place. And throughout this journey, they had to go through these trials and tribulations through the Culling game to create new rules and create new maybe restrictions to stop the Culling game from getting so out of hand, out of proportion, and to maybe even get down to like why this was created in the first place. And I think that's what I think the premise of this is after the infamous third episode and all the numerous recaps and the amount of memes being surrounded that, oh my god, there's just so much like exposition being told, there's so much ring involved, like what am I supposed to do here? But like I said, this show is not without its faults anyway. There are some really nice and unique characters that you come across in the show, from a dude whose ability involves him being covered head to toe in receipts, and he rips receipts out, and whenever he touches them and uses his powers, something from the receipts, like maybe a train or a used house, comes out and just straight up like attacks their enemies. Or another instance where you have an enemy that's made out of purely cockroaches and is the demonizing spirit of all the cockroaches combined. And there's even another really unique character where he uses the gavel and is like the judge, jury, executioner type of ability, and that's really cool. I think that's another unique ability that just showcases a lot of playfulness. Again, this show is just nuts to butts full of action, full of charisma, and I think that this is a show that if you've been paying attention to Jujutsu Kaisen up to this point, you're going to love the first half of the show all around. And again, with that being said, I do understand that, would this be like a really good way to get introduced to Jujutsu Kaisen? Absolutely not, in my opinion. I would much strongly prefer that you check out the first season or especially the second season because that's where they really put out all the stops for this show. And I think I'll simply leave it at that. Again, I think at the end of the day, there really isn't like a lot of complaints I say about it. Like it's a really fun show that you really can't really hate at this point, given how big and how popular it is. And yes, you can argue that like maybe the story is not going to connect throughout this first half of the show, and maybe it will connect during the second part of the Culling game when it eventually airs. But I think even despite that, it does make up for more than enough of its animation, the incredible voice acting. Once again, super creative, unique fights that are just so out there that just showcases like why Mappa Studios is on top of your game, even despite some past controversies, mind you. But with that being said, I'm feeling like a decent to strong 8 on this thing. I've been giving 8s out of the wazoo, man, as of late, and Jujutsu Kaisen The Calling Game Part 1 is no exception to that at this point. But yeah, just want to simply yap and talk about this a bit, and that's it. I'll see you on the next one. Later.